Hey y'all, it's Megan. Welcome back to the channel. Glad y'all are here today. Come spend some time with me today. It's going to be another busy one. I'm getting in the short rows, putting up the hog meat. Got more bacon going in the smoker. I didn't want to bore y'all with that. I just put it in there and it just got good and going here. I'm going to be canning some sausage and canning some pork ribs. And y'all, my freezers are busting at the seams. So I'm going to show y'all how I do the sausage and the ribs, and hope y'all enjoy the video. All right, so next thing on the list, we're gonna get our ribs in the jars and in the canner. Canning ribs is super easy, y'all. It is super easy. And the one thing I like about it, actually a couple things, I like that it don't take up any room in my freezer. Ain't gotta worry about the power going out, nothing like that. And the ribs are already cooked to the point that they are like tender, falling off the bone. Literally all I gotta do is open up a jar, warm them up. I like to put a little barbecue sauce on them. Let that kind of caramelize a little bit on them in the oven. Man, y'all, they're done in like 15 minutes, if even that long. So, I always like to can a few ribs every year. And this is my last bit of ribs I've got left. So, that's what we're going to do. My canner only holds 7 quarts. So, if I happen to have anything beyond 7 quarts, I will just cook that at a later date. Now, that right there, that's some nice looking ribs. So, tip number 1 though for canning ribs or any kind of bone-in meat, make sure you're using wide mouth jars. I've tried it before, like throw in a regular mouth jar here and there, and you can't hardly get them things out. Like after they're canned, it's a struggle. So, my best recommendation is if you're gonna do this, make sure you got wide mouth jars. Now, I cut it only a couple of bones a piece. And it's kind of like putting together a puzzle. And this is really cold, so this is going to make it a little more difficult than it normally is. Guess what? If they don't fit, just cut them again. So I'm going to lay my jar down. That nice meat on there. Now, the bad thing about ribs is where they do have a bone, you can't get a ton of them in a jar. So when I'm cooking for all of us, I open up at least 2 quarts. Luckily, I canned quite a few last year, so I've still got several left in the basement. So this won't be all we have. I'm gonna have to cut that again. That's too wide. There's a bone. Old refrigerator out there about froze these, I believe. I got an old refrigerator out in my building out there, and that's where we keep this extra stuff at. Because I know I ain't got enough room for it in my freezer up here. My refrigerator up here at the house. And that one is bad to freeze stuff. This is where stuff starts getting a little tricky. Just put as many in a jar as you can get. See if I can find me another little piece here. Literally canning ribs is like putting together a puzzle. There we go. That's the way I like to try to do it right there. You can see, there's a lot of dead space. These ribs are somewhat going to make a little bit of broth, but mostly it'll probably be broth up to there and fat up to probably here. But they keep absolutely fine because the rest of it will be exposed to the air. But they keep fine. I've eaten ribs, honestly, y'all, that were, I think the oldest ones we ever ate were probably 3 years old, something like that. As long as you got a good seal, you did the process correctly, ain't nothing to worry about. Now, one thing with meat, though, it does have to be done in the pressure canner, especially according to the ABC folks. And just to be on the safe side, I always do meat in the pressure canner. that little guy. In there, come on. There we go. Okay. Next. We about cut these right here too long. We usually saw our ribs with our meat saw. You saw us using a few of the videos to cut them into these strips like this. There we go. That'll work. Yep, we about left them too long right there. Well, don't look like I'm gonna have quite 7 quarts, and that's fine too. I froze most of my ribs because most of the time that's how I cook them, but I do like to have it this way as backup. And that ain't enough to fill another jar. Ain't a whole lot of meat there anyway. I'll figure out what I'm gonna do with that. That may be a nice treat for Tiger this evening. So the next thing when you're canning ribs, just like anything else pretty much, you're gonna put a teaspoon of salt for each quart. You don't have to, but I always do. Since these ribs are so greasy and I know they touched the rim of this, we're going to wipe them off here. Y'all know sometimes I just skip this step if I don't feel like it's necessary, but get that grease off of there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and put our lids and rings on. You don't add any liquid, you don't need to. Like I said a while ago, it'll make its own little bit of broth. Most of it will be fat, but there's no reason to water these down. So our lid's going on. I get the question a lot about what kind of cannon lids I use. I do use the 4 jars cannon lids. I actually bought some, that's probably been 3 years ago now, maybe 2, at the Homesteaders of America conference. 4 jars was there. I bought me some lids. The lids are made phenomenal compared to some of the competition, and ever since then that's what I've been using. Reached out to them just to see if, you know, they could offer y'all some kind of discount for me showing it here on the channel, and sure enough, there'll be a link down in the description. I believe it's 10% off of the 4 jars lids. Try them out. You won't be disappointed. At least I don't think anyway. It's the only kind of lids I use now. Yeah, he said he ain't be gone long. So cold jars go in a cold canner. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut my heat on. Start letting that heat up. So once this is vented, we're gonna let this cook under pressure. We're gonna let this can under pressure for 90 minutes under 10 pounds of pressure. So that's an hour and a half once our weight starts jiggling after I get it on there. Next thing I need to do, my bacon is actually about done. My smoker's held on pretty good. The sun's shining on it, and so it got temperature pretty quick. So that's about done. I gotta get that out, and then we'll fill this canner up with some sausage. Now we got to get some sausage canned. This right here is a 5-pound bag of sausage. Usually when we do our sausage, we just go ahead and weigh it out in 5-pound bags. Some of them I freeze like this. Some of them I break up into packs, and some of it I can. So just for reference, that's how much I'm using today. My canner holds 10 pints. So I'm going to fill these jars up, and if I got any left, then I'll probably just cook it one morning for breakfast, whatever I've got left. But it may fill them up. I don't can sausage every year. Usually I do enough for 2 years. That probably won't be the case this time. I don't use it a ton. I mainly use it if I'm making sausage gravy or in things like spaghetti. It's really quick because, again, it's already cooked. I just dump it out. Anytime you're canning any kind of ground meat and doing the raw pack method, you don't want to just take that meat and shove it down in your jar. It's really hard for the heat to get all the way to the middle of it just because it's so thick. So what you're going to want to do is just roll it up into little balls, a little bigger than a quarter, maybe not quite a 50-cent piece. And we're going to put as many in there as that jar will hold. It'll do some shrinking during the cooking process. Now back in the day, they used to take and they'd fry them some sausage patties. Put the sausage patties in the jar. Then pour the grease on top of it, turn the jar upside down till the grease got hard, and that's the way they used to can it. Now, again, by the ABC folks, that's not a recommended method. That's something, I've done it a few times, but I prefer doing it this way. So we're just going to work our way through. I don't add any salt to the sausage when I can it like we did the ribs, just because it's already got that sausage seasoning in it. It's already got some salt involved in it. I don't want to mess up that good taste of my sausage seasoning with too much salt, so I don't put any salt in this. I do get a lot of questions about what kind of sausage seasoning we use. We use something called Old Mansion. You used to could find it around in hardware stores and stuff around here, but now the best way to get it, at least in our area, is we actually get it wholesale from Old Mansion, and it's up in Virginia, up in like the northern part. I can't remember the town, but it's up in the northern part of Virginia. We use that and add a little extra sage to it. Hear my ribs back there getting ready to start cranking up. So just like that, I'm not going to mash it down or nothing. Like I said, that'll actually shrink quite a bit. I'll show y'all that when I get it out, but what it looks like. And we'll just go through. I ain't going to make y'all stand here and watch me do every one of these jars now. I'm going to go ahead and set my timer back here on 1.5 hours. Y'all ain't never gonna believe this. That 5 pounds was exactly enough to fill up my 10 pints. That right there is lacking a little bit, but it'll be just fine. Again, no liquid. It'll make its own fat. Some of it'll still be exposed, but it'll be just fine. We're going to get our lid on there. So where those are pints, those will only go for 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I'll set a different timer for those, and I'll show you what everything looks like when it gets done. Alright, so my sausage and my ribs both are done. So we're going to get those out, and I'm going to show you what they look like. First, I'm going to get my sausage out. See how much it shrunk? That's what I'm telling y'all. So we'll have a little bit of broth here. The rest of that will turn white and be grease. I usually just do pints for this canned sausage because that's all I need at one time. Now that's just fitting for us, but you can be more than welcome to do it in quarts. But pints is all we usually need. That looks real good though. And depending on how much fat is in your sausage is going to be how much it shrinks and how much grease you have. So of course, home sausage usually has a little more grease in it than the store sausage. Alright, so those look great. Actually, most of my jars have already sealed. I let them cool off in the pressure canner for a little bit before I ever open the lid. So let's go ahead and get our ribs out now. Look at there. Fabulous. So that's what your canned ribs are going to look like. See, a little bit of broth, a little bit of grease. Most of it's going to be exposed to the air. Or at least the air in the jar. That's totally fine. That is to be expected. Oh, they look beautiful though. And most of these have already sealed too. Now that right there, I've got several easy meals. It took me a while, you know, just with the amount of time these things take in the pressure canner. But y'all know what? This little piece of a day's worth of work is going to make for a lot of quick suppers, breakfasts, things like that. There's y'all a little more up close. That's your sausage. It's hard to see because of the reflection. There we go. There's my sausage in there and the ribs. And you can see it's pulled away from the bone in there. That's what it's supposed to do. Fabulous. So I had a really good question on another video that I wanted to address. Somebody asked, when you spend all day working up this meat and doing things, do you fix supper because you've been fooling with food all day? So that goes both ways. Sometimes we may go grab us a bite to eat. A lot of times what I like to do though, when it's a really busy day like this, I'll either put something in the crock pot or something that takes a while to bake in the oven. So tonight we're having a whole chicken. I like to do those on busy nights just because it's got to cook in the oven for like 2 hours. I just stick it in there, let it go. I ain't really got to watch it. Nothing like that. And we're going to have some leftover sides tonight. So a very simple, easy supper. I'm going to check on my chicken and see if it's done while we're talking about it. See how it's looking. It's been in there about an hour, so it actually probably needs to go another hour, but we'll look at it. That is looking mighty fine. It's not quite done yet. Like I said, I'm gonna leave it in there probably another hour-ish, something like that. But I do want to tell y'all about the seasoning that I have on this. So I had a sweet viewer send me the coolest package, y'all. They're from Louisiana, and they sent me all kinds of local stuff from Louisiana. And I have thoroughly enjoyed the things that they sent. They sent some examples, local honey, several seasonings, a donut mixture. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I made some of those too. They were very good. It was all kinds of things, and it was just I don't know, I felt like it was the neatest package. And the seasoning I actually put on this chicken is called, let's see, blackened seasoning. Never heard of it. I've never tried it. It is delicious, y'all. So that's what I put on my chicken tonight. I rubbed it with some mustard and then sprinkled this on there. So thank you for sending me that. But we're going to stick this bad boy back in the oven. But anyways, guys, I guess that's going to about wrap it up for today's video. I've got to get this kitchen back in order before we eat supper tonight. And anyways, till we see y'all in the next one. Y'all have a good one.